Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever had one of those nights, or maybe, a series of days where your body is physically in one place, like sitting at your desk or finally lying in bed, but your mind is still punching the clock, demanding overtime?
It's an incredibly common experience. In fact, it might be the central drain on emotional energy for so many successful, high-functioning adults. The body is desperate for rest, but the nervous system is just running a marathon.
And crucially, this isn't productive thinking, right? We're not talking about actually sitting down to draft a memo or solving a real financial problem. This is pure, relentless looping. It's like a highlight reel, but only of the worst moments.
Exactly. The loop tends to take two primary forms. First, there's the backward loop. You're replaying that conversation from 2 weeks ago, and you're mentally crafting the perfect cutting reply you should have given.
Oh, yes.
Or you're meticulously examining every single variable of a decision you've already made. The past becomes a stage for this endless and frankly useless rehearsal.
And then there's the forward loop, which feels a lot like anxiety just dressed up as planning. You're jumping ahead to future anxieties, tomorrow's huge appointment, the budget meeting next month. It was really complex family logistics.
Or trying to calculate the true cost of inflation 3 years from now. It's just this relentless churn that often just leads you right back to where you started.
And hidden under all that noise, that mental loop, is a really quiet, deep-seated fear. It doesn't show up like loud panic. It's more of a subtle, chest-tightening pressure.
It's the incessant whispered questioning that drives the whole system. What if I mess this up and the consequences are just devastating? What if things go wrong that I didn't prepare for?
Or maybe the biggest one. What if people see, behind the facade that I'm not as steady or as competent as they think I am?
That last one is so powerful because for so many people, especially in midlife, this constant looping doesn't feel like a flaw. It feels like responsibility.
It feels like your duty, like necessary diligence. You've lived enough life to know firsthand that things can turn on a dime. Health fails, jobs disappear, the market gets volatile. So the mind just concludes that the only responsible way to be is to run scenarios, to rehearse every angle, to try to preempt the next disaster.
And that protective strategy, while it's born from a place of care and responsibility, it comes at a profound cumulative cost. What the sources we're looking at really emphasize is that the more the mind runs, the less genuine restorative rest you actually get.
You might be physically in bed, but you are mentally just exhausting your system.
Exactly. And we all know the result of that. The lack of genuine rest makes everything feel so fragile the next day. You start the morning already drained, on edge, with a much shorter emotional fuse.
And what does that fragility trigger? The mind, which perceives danger and instability, runs even harder, trying to compensate for the exhaustion.
It turns into this self-perpetuating negative feedback system. It's like living with a permanent internal news radio that never shuts off, a constant stream of anxiety-fueled weather forecasts for the future and relentless hypercritical commentary on your past.
What's so fascinating is how universal this is. The core texts we've been reviewing, they call this pervasive inner weight, this feeling of a heart that just cannot settle, by a very simple, non-dramatic name: suffering.
Right, and it's used here not as some kind of religious condemnation, but as an honest, direct description of the pain caused by the mind's resistance to the present moment. The suffering is the weight of the unmet present, because we're always trying to live 2 hours from now or 2 weeks ago.
So if that looping is the problem, what's our mission for this deep dive? We're certainly not going to try and force the mind into some unnatural silence because, well, force usually just creates more tension.
And we're not pretending that life is simple or that problems don't exist. Our mission is to look gently, but with a lot of clarity, at why the mind develops this habit of overthinking, where the strategy came from, and what becomes truly and immediately possible when the heart learns, even for just brief moments, to return to right now.
We're going to explore the cultural pressures feeding this, the hidden cost of demanding certainty from an uncertain world, and then offer 2 really practical, gentle ways to step out of that loop using awareness, breath, and the body. Let's start by setting the context, because this looping line doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's responding to real external pressures. The source analysis highlights some particular cultural demands that seem to normalize this constant mental load, especially for people in their 40s, 50s, and beyond.
Yeah, if you look at modern professional life, there's been this tremendous acceleration. Many people are still deeply engaged in their careers, but the work itself shifts relentlessly. You're dealing with new technologies, the expectation of being constantly available.
Always on.
Always on. Adapting to younger managers with different approaches. Facing the need for perpetual reskilling. The mental fatigue isn't just from the tasks, it's from the need for this continuous mental recalibration.
It's that feeling that your mind is never really allowed to be off the clock. You finish your last email at 8 p.m., but the mental prep for tomorrow's first meeting starts immediately. Running scenarios while you're making dinner. The system just stays primed.
And the interesting counterpoint is that if you are retired, that high alert pattern doesn't just vanish. The energy that was previously used to manage work complexity, it just redeploys itself into new fields of worry.
Oh, that's interesting.
Suddenly, the focus shifts intensely to health concerns. Every ache becomes a potential disaster, or the market's volatility, the rising cost of long-term care, or maybe just this generalized anxiety about the world, especially as it relates to their kids and grandkids.
The object of worry changes, but the underlying habit, it stays exactly the same.
Structurally identical.
Then you add the crushing family load, which is often unique to this demographic. You're potentially in that sandwich generation. You're managing the highly complex needs of aging parents, their healthcare, their finances, while also trying to be present and supportive for your own adult children or grandkids. It's just an enormous stack of demands.
And we should also acknowledge the inverse of that, dealing with profound loneliness or loss. If retirement means the house is suddenly quiet after decades of activity, or if a partner has passed away, that silence becomes a mirror. It forces the mind to reflect on things, grief, uncertainty, existential questions that were expertly avoided during years of being busy. The mind starts racing to fill that silence with noise, trying to outrun the rawness of the emotion.
That's why the cultural pressure is so potent right now. We're constantly exposed to these hyper-curated versions of success, bombarded with opinions on what we should have achieved, how retirement should look.
Right. And all that pressure feeds this constant, quiet inner scoreboard. We're often running two scoreboards at once. The external one is ticking away, comparing your finances, your appearance, your achievements against your peers.
But the internal one is way crueler.
Much crueler. It silently tallies up deficiencies. Did I do enough today to earn rest? Was that choice to leave that job 5 years ago a mistake? Did I say the wrong thing in that meeting? It's this perpetual self-critique. What if I'm falling permanently behind my own unreachable expectation?
The insight from the source material is so crucial here. The mind doesn't ask these questions because you're broken or weak. It's asking them because it's trying to keep you safe. It's a protective mechanism.
Which leads to the core question. If it's trying to protect me, why does it feel so exhausting? It's because the mind gets trapped, it confuses thinking with solving, it operates under the belief that if it keeps running scenarios, it's being responsible.
So if I spend 2 hours tonight calculating every worst-case retirement scenario, that isn't solving.
Only if that leads you to one clear, actionable next step that you can take tomorrow morning, and then you let it go. The difference is critical. When mental activity only leads to more tension, more exhaustion, and this feeling of being immobilized, then it's no longer solving. It's just maintaining a state of high alarm.
And this is where the Buddhist lens comes in. And it's not about complex doctrine. It's just about noticing.
Exactly. It's the simple, compassionate observation. This is what the mind does when it's afraid. And this is what the heart feels when it's carrying the weight of the world. It's an invitation to see there might be another, less burdensome way.
The turning point really is recognizing that false promise of control.
Yes. Overthinking feels so seductive because it promises control over uncertain outcomes. But the moment you acknowledge that this frantic control is actively costing you your sleep, your peace, your presence, the burden becomes undeniable. The strategy that started as protection turns into a trap.
Let's get into the actual machinery of the loop. When does overthinking go from being a useful tool to a paralyzing burden? It often happens when the mind is so busy with potential futures that it stops helping you move forward right now. We've all felt this. Staring at a simple task, just send the email, make the 5-minute call, and feeling completely drained before you've even started.
It's the profound paradox of overthinking. The task itself is trivial, but the mind has already run this energy-intensive simulation 100 different ways, generating every possible negative outcome, every imagined criticism. The entire energy reserve is spent in rehearsal, leaving nothing for the actual performance.
It's like the mind refuses to accept that reality is linear. The source material uses a great analogy for this. The mind doesn't just look at one door, it opens every door in the hallway at the same time and tries to walk through all of them at once.
Right, you hear that internal monologue. If I say it this way, they'll think I'm too aggressive, but if I say it that way, they'll think I'm weak. What if I regret this in 5 years? What about the other option I rejected 3 months ago? Was that a mistake?
That process is not just exhausting, it generates massive internal friction. And the danger is that overthinking is an expert at camouflage. It pretends to be productive. It says, I'm planning meticulously, I'm analyzing every risk, I'm being careful.
But if you strip away the language and just look at the emotional result, its flavor is always pure tension.
And that tension quickly moves into the body, doesn't it? It's not just an intellectual stress.
Absolutely. The tension manifests physically. For many, it's sleepless nights, that feeling we call tired but wired. Your body is exhausted, but the cognitive activity has triggered the sympathetic nervous system, flooding you with cortisol and adrenaline. That chemical cocktail keeps the system running full throttle.
Revving the engine while you're parked.
Exactly. For others, it's chronic, low-grade irritability, where every small inconvenience feels like a catastrophe. Or, more subtly, it's a quiet sadness, because even when good things are happening, you're a step removed, unable to feel truly present.
And here's the core frustration. After all that mental effort, certainty never, ever arrives. The mind promises, just think a little more, run one more scenario, and you'll finally feel safe.
But certainty, by its nature, can't be manufactured through thought alone, especially about the future. The finish line just keeps moving.
So the thinking just keeps circling, consuming your energy until you feel utterly drained. And then the second layer of suffering arrives, the brutal self-judgment. Why can't I stop? Why can't I just get it together?
This is why that non-judgmental perspective offers such kindness. We label this a human moment, not a personal failure. It's simply a protective strategy that developed, maybe out of necessity, and then stopped working.
I mean, this habit often starts as a highly adaptive response, right? Maybe you grew up in an environment where you had to predict things to feel safe, or you had a job where mistakes just weren't tolerated.
Yes, the mind adapted by creating a mandate. I must run the future ahead of time. I must scan for every possible danger.
And for a long time, that probably felt like wisdom, like competence.
Yeah.
But there has to be a difference between that and the obsession it becomes.
Yes. The critical difference is the stopping point. Wise, prudent planning has a clear endpoint. It leads to 1 or 2 clear next steps and then allows for rest. Overthinking has no stopping point. It just keeps you circling.
The car analogy again. Foot on the gas and the brake at the same time. The engine is working furiously, burning fuel, but you're not going anywhere.
And if we live like that long enough, we start to internalize it. We label it as identity. I'm just an anxious person, or if I stop worrying, something catastrophic will happen and it will be my fault.
So the deeper insight here connects back to our opening idea. Suffering grows when we cling.
Precisely. We aren't clinging to physical things. We're clinging to the desired feeling of certainty. We desperately want to feel safe in an unsure world, and we hope that sheer mental exertion can fabricate that safety. When we cling to certainty, the mind stays rigid and tense, and the heart stays tired.
This brings us to a profound shift in perspective. If we slow down enough, if we really look, the sources suggest that underneath the noise of the loop, there's always something. Well, something more tender hiding. It's not a weakness, but a quiet, honest fear that the mind, with all its strategizing, doesn't actually know how to hold.
And because the mind's default is to strategize its way out of emotional pain, it runs into a wall. That ceaseless mental looping is almost always driven by an attempt to avoid one of four core, deep-seated fears. Naming them is the first step out of the trap.
Okay, let's explore these four because they seem incredibly powerful, especially in midlife.
The first is the fear that I might lose something valuable. This shows up as obsessing over potential health declines, the security of a relationship, the market volatility. The loop runs scenarios designed to safeguard things that are, ultimately impermanent.
Like spending hours calculating a long-term care scenario for a parent, hoping the calculation itself will prevent the emotional difficulty.
Exactly. The second is the fear that I might disappoint someone important to me. This is relentless in work and family life. It might mean spending all weekend drafting and redrafting a simple email to a parent or a client, convinced that any tiny imperfection will lead to catastrophic judgment.
You're clinging to the identity of the reliable one.
Yes. The third is the fear that I might not be able to handle what's coming. This is that generalized dread of the unknown future. It hits hard during major life transitions. An empty nest, a career change, a health diagnosis. The mind rehearses for emotional collapse, believing that bracing for the worst will somehow make it less painful.
And the fourth, which is often the most primal one, the fear that I might not be enough as I am right now.
The self-judgment engine. If the house isn't perfect, if the finances aren't settled, the inner scoreboard just screams that you lack worth. Overthinking becomes this endless pursuit of competence, trying to earn security or love through perfect preparation.
The core conflict here is the strategy mismatch. We're conditioned to address challenges with strategy. Competence, preparation, strength.
But life ultimately is not solvable that way. You can't think your way into a lifetime guarantee of health. You cannot analyze your way into perfect safety. And you certainly can't plan your way out of the grief and loss that are just inevitable parts of being human.
So if the mind throws a strategic solution at an emotional problem, the loop just gets worse. This is where that second truth lands. The suffering isn't in the situation, it grows in the clinging.
Precisely. Clinging to predictability, clinging to being seen a certain way, and clinging most powerfully to the hope that relentless worry will somehow prevent pain. That clinging is the extra, unnecessary weight we carry.
And it often shows up as a self-punishment paradox. Overthinking feels like responsibility, but it quickly degrades into a form of self-inflicted violence. You replay scenes like you're on trial, rehearsing failures, bracing for criticism that might not even exist.
Yet the mind will argue so fiercely against stopping. I have to do this. If I stop thinking, I'll miss something critical. So the goal, as we learned, isn't to rip the habit out by force. That just creates more tension.
The goal has to be to meet the habit with understanding, not condemnation. A gentle noticing. My mind is running the protection script again.
I am craving certainty right now. Or, I feel afraid of disappointing someone.
When you can name what's happening without judgment, the loop instantly loses its grip.
That simple act of recognition, naming the fear, naming the craving, it opens the door not to more thinking, but to a small, deliberate return to the present moment.
And that return starts with catching the invisible moment where the loop begins. Every trance starts with a single, often missed first step.
That invisible first step might be entirely physical, a sudden tightening in the stomach, a clenching in the jaw, or it might be a quiet, authoritative sentence that appears in your mind. I have to figure this out now, or they're definitely going to judge me for that.
At that moment, the thought sounds completely reasonable, urgent, necessary. And then the mind, on panic, starts building the entire fortress around it. Before you know it, you're not in your living room. You're mentally inhabiting a terrifying future.
This is where the practice really begins, at the level of awareness. When you catch yourself in that initial moment, you recognize the crucial distinction. Overthinking isn't who you are. It is just a mental process happening in you, like a change in the weather. You don't have to obey it.
Naming it creates that space. It's the difference between being swept away by a current and realizing you are standing in the river, watching the current rush past.
Yeah.
That one step back is so liberating.
That is mindfulness, not some esoteric concept, but the basic human capacity to know what is happening while it's happening. Once you know what's happening, you don't have to climb inside the next urgent thought. You can choose to pause. And that pause leads us directly to the physical anchors we can use to return to the real world. When the mind is overthinking, it feels fragmented, stuck in the past, lost in the future, preoccupied. In this high alert, scattered state, fighting thoughts with more thinking just adds fuel to the fire. The quieter, more effective move is returning to the most real thing available: the breath.
And the power of the breath isn't some magical cure. It's just relentlessly immediate. It's happening right now, whether your mind agrees or not. And right now is the only place the loop can actually loosen its grip.
So here's the simple practice the sources detail, and it's designed to be accessible even when you feel you're spiraling. First, abandon the idea of a perfect breath. Just notice the breath you're already in, however shallow or fast it feels. Where do you feel it? Is it the air at the nostrils, the rise and fall of the chest, or movement in the belly?
The moment you locate that feeling, gently invite 3 slightly slower, conscious breaths. It's not a harsh command, it's a quiet message to your body. It's okay, you're here.
And silently note the word in on the inhale and out on the exhale.
That simple 3-breath sequence has an immediate result, doesn't it?
It does. Instead of being overwhelmed by 1,000 abstract fears, the mind is given 2 simple points of attention: the movement and the naming. The anxious chatter might continue in the background, we're not seeking silence, but it immediately loses the steering wheel of your attention.
But when the mind inevitably wanders, which it will, what do? That's where I think most people get discouraged.
That is the practice itself. The critical step is to return without punishment, without judgment. You notice the wandering, you gently label it, there's the future worry loop, and you patiently bring your attention back to the current inhale. It's like training a puppy. When it runs off, you don't shout at it, you just gently call it back.
But I know the mind will argue, but what about that thing tomorrow? I really need to figure that out right now.
You hold a gentle boundary. You can answer the thought quietly. Thank you. I hear you. We will address that at 9 a.m., but right now is not the time. This isn't denial. It's an act of choosing to be in the world that is actually here, rather than the fictional, worry-fueled world that hasn't arrived.
Okay, now let's introduce the body anchor, because sometimes the breath anchor can feel too subtle. If your mind is racing, trying to focus on your breath can feel like trying to hold smoke in your hands.
That's a key distinction. Overthinking is characterized by pulling all attention upward. We feel like we're living from the neck up, disconnected from our foundation. Mindfulness of the body is a potent, grounded, physical way to interrupt that mental trance.
So let's detail this grounding technique. It involves 2 simple questions, designed to elicit facts, not stories.
Question 1, ask quietly to yourself, how am I sitting or standing right now? The answer has to be factual, devoid of narrative. My left foot is on the carpet, my back is against the chair, my jaw is clenched. You're simply observing the physical reality of the moment.
Question 2, immediately after, what am I doing right now? Again, facts only. I'm listening to this, I'm standing at the kitchen counter, I'm lying in a warm bed.
This exercise is surprisingly effective because overthinking is a kind of self-hypnosis. It convinces you that the frantic thoughts are more real than the actual moment, but the body only exists in one place, right here, right now. When you do the body check-in, you gently but firmly pull your attention out of the storm and back into something stable and real.
And what happens when you notice that physical tension? The tight jaw, the shoulders up by your ears? That noticing is often the first moment of relief.
That noticing isn't a failure, it is the absolute beginning of care. Awareness naturally creates space. You don't have to force relaxation. By simply naming the tightness, the jaw is clenched, you might find your shoulders automatically drop a half inch because the system has been acknowledged.
This makes the practice fit seamlessly into real life. You can do this body check-in anywhere. Waiting for a doctor's appointment, in the grocery line, in the middle of a tense meeting. Each time you ground yourself, you teach your mind a vital lesson. I don't have to live in the future to be responsible. I can be here and meet what comes from this place of stability.
Let's return to the context of midlife, because it's so important to validate the listener's experience. Overthinking at this stage feels different and more dangerous than in earlier decades. When we were younger, we worried about what might happen. Now we worry with evidence.
Right. We have enough personal history to know the real fragility of life. We know health can change, people leave, careers stall.
Financial plans fall apart. That real-world evidence is why the what-if habit is so stubborn. It's not just imagination anymore, it's fueled by memory. It's born from knowing that life is fundamentally deeply uncertain, and that uncertainty has real stakes.
And for many, the protective mind tends to build this thick fortress of thoughts around a few specific, high-stakes triggers.
Yes, we see 4 main areas where this fortress is strongest.
The first, and often the most potent, is health. A new symptom, a pending test result, or even a routine appointment can trigger a massive spiral. The loop starts running. What if this is the beginning of something? How will that affect my family? Can we afford this?
The mind rushes ahead, trying to manage an outcome that's weeks or months away. The second is the complex area of family, dealing with adult children making choices we can't control, or juggling the increasing demands of aging parent care. The mind tries to predict every conversation, rehearse a flawless script.
A futile attempt to manage the free will of others.
Exactly. Third is money and stability. Retirement, inflation, insurance. The mind desperately seeks solid ground in an uncertain financial landscape. When it can't find it, it resorts to endless calculations in the dark, usually late at night.
And lastly, loneliness and identity. As roles shift, kids are gone, a career winds down, silence arrives. When the mind is confronted with that quiet space, it quickly fills it with the noise of overthinking. It prefers the familiar pain of worry to the unknown vulnerability of the present emotion.
The crucial insight here is that the overthinking habit almost always appears right at the edge of something you can't fully control. And the mind, in its protective instinct, tries desperately to control it anyway. The fortress of thoughts it builds is designed to protect you from uncertainty, but the daily cost of living inside it is just too high.
So the practice is not about denying these real concerns.
No, not at all. We aren't telling you to stop paying attention to your health or your finances. It's about noticing when the mind crosses the line from wise, clear attention into endless, energy-sapping rehearsal.
And how do we tell the difference in the moment?
Wise attention is clear and focused. It says, I have researched this, and now I will take the next practical step. I will call the advisor at 10 a.m. tomorrow. It ends with an action and allows for rest. Endless rehearsal says, I must run this through 10 more scenarios and achieve perfect certainty before I can move.
Which rarely, if ever, comes.
Right. The goal is to return, again and again, to the one thing you can actually do right now. A conscious breath, a grounded body check-in, or one single, real, tangible next step. Not the perfect step, just the honest one.
We have to talk about the hidden costs of this internal loop, because it's not just wasting your time, it's actively draining your life force in ways that seem harmless because they're disguised as responsibility.
If you've had this habit for years, you've likely noticed the 4 subtle costs that act as barriers to peace. Number 1 is sleep. It's not just the hours lost falling asleep, it's the physiological quality of rest you don't get. Your body is in bed, but your nervous system is running on high alert.
So you wake up feeling like you ran a half marathon even after 8 hours because your mind never powered down.
Exactly. Number 2 is presence. This is a profound cost to relationships. You can be physically sitting across the table from someone you love, a partner, a friend, a grandchild, and yet you are entirely somewhere else.
You nod and smile, but internally you're still calculating, replaying, or worrying. Your heart is stuck in the loop, making genuine connection impossible.
They're sharing life with a ghost of your attention. Number 3 is joy. Joy is light, spontaneous, spacious. Overthinking is heavy, dense, demanding. When the mind is perpetually braced for the next wrong outcome, it leaves no space to feel or appreciate what is good and beautiful right now.
Joy feels irresponsible to the worried mind.
It does. And maybe the biggest cost to your forward momentum is courage, which shows up as avoidance. Overthinking breeds this powerful kind of procrastination. Because the mind has constructed 100 possible disasters, it starts to feel safer to do nothing at all. You delay the call, postpone the conversation, endlessly prepare instead of just beginning.
And here is the cruelest part of the loop.
Yes, the mind uses that very delay, the avoidance, as final proof that you were right to worry. See, it whispers, you're stuck. You can't handle this. You delayed, which proves you're weak.
It creates the very self-doubt it claimed it was trying to prevent. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy of immobilization.
The invitation here is tender, but it's also powerful. If you are a relentless overthinker, it means you have an immense capacity for care and diligence. But that capacity for protection becomes a self-made prison when it actively prevents you from moving forward.
The realization, then, is that peace isn't something you earn after you've solved everything perfectly.
No, it's something you can actually touch and feel, something that is accessible right in the middle of ongoing uncertainty. That's the necessary shift. The transformation we're seeking doesn't happen when you finally stop the thinking. That's an impossibility. It happens when you learn how to introduce a deliberate, conscious pause inside the thinking itself. Even 10 seconds of a conscious pause immediately stops feeding the loop.
And in that paused space, a kind of clarity emerges. You realize you don't need to solve everything today. You just need to meet the current reality and take one honest small step.
That is what mindfulness means in practical terms. Not abstract concepts, but the ability to notice my mind is racing and then deliberately choose, I'm going to come back to my breath, or I'm going to feel my feet on the floor.
That pause is how we start to reclaim our energy.
Yes, by clearly differentiating between the two types of thought. Practical thinking is directed, clear, and ends with an action plan. I need to save $500 this month. I'll call the bank tomorrow. Anxious thinking is circular, repetitive, and just asks for an infinite certainty that will never be delivered.
As you practice that moment of pausing, you start to funnel that inner fuel away from pointless rehearsals and back toward actual gentle action. And that's when action becomes possible again.
You respond to the email, you make the imperfect appointment, you have the conversation imperfectly, humanly, sometimes a little scared. But there's a quiet dignity in that action because you're no longer hiding from your life inside your head.
This is the heart of it, isn't it? It's not about becoming a fearless person who never worries.
Not at all. It is about becoming someone who has the steady capacity to stay present while fear and uncertainty are still there. And from this steady practice, something soft and profoundly steady begins to grow in the heart. Trust.
Trust that you can meet whatever comes, moment by moment. Trust that you don't have to predict every single outcome to be okay.
And critically, trust that peace is not the absence of problems, but simply the reliable ability to take a conscious breath and remain grounded in the middle of them.
The overthinking mind has one favorite doorway, and we all know it well. What if? What if I say the wrong thing? What if the test results are terrible? These questions are presented as protective, but they rarely end with a plan. They almost always end with a dense, heavy mood.
So the shift is softening your entire relationship with the what if. The first line of defense is always asking, is this thought helping me take one real step? Or is it just pulling me into paralyzing fear? If it's leading to a step, take it. If it's looping, you offer the mind a different balancing doorway.
Not forced positivity, but deliberate balance and compassion toward yourself. When the what if arrives, you can pause and offer a quiet counter question to your own system. What if it's okay?
What if I can handle this just one step at a time today?
And what if I don't need to be perfect to be worthy of peace and rest?
And maybe the most powerful counter question of all. What if I do my best, my human imperfect best, and then I allow the rest, the uncontrollable part, to gently unfold? The core wisdom is learning to be less violently demanding of yourself. Overthinking demands perfection and total control as the price of peace. Wisdom says, I can't control everything, but I can choose to be present right here, right now, with what is. If your mind has been running heavy lately, if the nights feel long and the what-if questions are demanding your attention, please know that this is not a sign of failure. It is simply a mind trying, maybe a little too hard, to protect a heart that has lived, that knows loss, and understands profound uncertainty.
And the single most compassionate, effective thing we can do for that burdened mind is not to argue with it, but to gently guide it back home, back to something simple, back to what's real right now.
We want to leave you with one small portable practice. The very next time you notice the loop starting, the clench in the jaw, the sentence starting with, I should have, or what if, Try these 3 simple steps. 1. Name it gently. Say silently, ah, overthinking is here. This is the what if loop. Giving it a label creates distance. 2. Take 3 slower conscious breaths. In, out, in, out, in, out. Giving your mind 2 physical points of focus. And 3, come back to the body for 1 honest, verifiable fact. Name it, my chair is supporting my weight, or I'm lying in a warm bed, or simply I am here.
And then the final closing question to shift your perspective. What is the next kind thing I can do right now in this moment? Not the next perfect thing, but the next kind thing. Maybe it's stretching, maybe it's writing down 1 practical step for tomorrow, or maybe it's just allowing yourself to accept the next breath without feeling you have to earn it.
This path doesn't offer a fantasy life without suffering, but it offers a quieter, more reliable way to suffer less by stopping the extra weight we add through our fear and our clinging. It's a way to keep returning to the present moment, again and again, until the present begins to feel like a place you can actually live.
So try just 1 breath, taken consciously, today. Not to fix your life, but just to return to it. And if the mind wanders away 5 seconds later, and it will, no problem, just come back again. That patience, that gentle, consistent returning, that's the practice. Not perfect, just lighter. This deep dive is intended for reflection and support and is not a substitute for medical or mental health care if you need it. Thank you for joining us.